bienvenidos una más en mi canal. Yo soy Mariana Burker y como pueden ver estoy en la presencia otra vez con Tracy Wolfff, la autora de Crave, Crush, Covet. Estamos aquí otra vez en Estados Unidos y vamos a hablar un poquito del proceso de escritura, de cómo la ha hecho, cómo ha ido avanzando, si tenemos algunos updates de la entrevista pasada, que si la quieren ir a ver, se los voy a dejar aquí en la i. Y pues vamos a comenzar en How are you, Tracy?
I am so good. It's so good to be here with you, Mariana. It's been, how long has it been? Has it been a year or so since you were here last? Or since the last time we met?
I think was when Court released.
Okay,
it was in February the last year.
Okay, so a little over a year.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be back here and talk to you.
Oh, thank you for meeting me, because this is a very funny story. I just posted a photo and I said that I was in Austin, and she sent me a DM that you're in Austin, and I'm like, yes. And you want to go for a coffee, for a lunch? And I'm like, absolutely, whenever you want.
Absolutely, I'm so excited. Mariana's so amazing. I had so much fun meeting her last time, so it's super exciting to get to talk to you again. Find out about everything. Have you talked about your stuff and your news yet? Do they know about it?
Yeah, they know.
I'm so excited about her book. This is so exciting. I cannot wait to read it. I'm very, very happy. So, yeah.
That's going to be a really long process. First in Spanish and then maybe in English. Oh, yeah, but you're taking in Spanish classes.
Absolutely. I can read Spanish.
Yeah, and it's not going to be like fantasy. Like, this takes a little bit more advanced level English. Yeah. It gets a little bit difficult, but not that much, right?
I learned I got more fluent reading Spanish when I was in graduate school, because you have to research in other languages, and so yeah, I'm pretty good about reading it. I don't know about reading fantasy. You're right, that would be, I think, a little more difficult.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I can't wait. I'm super excited.
Oh, thank you so much for your good wishes. Actually, I was mentioning that to her, that I got like the impulse, like just to do it after I did the interview with her, because I always have some ideas. Like as a reader, you always imagine your things, like you want to read. You want to write the things that you like to read, no? And so I was just like, yes. And I was so, like, I don't know, like so confident about how has been your process, because I was reading that you have wrote 60 books, more than 60 books?
Yeah, I think we're up to, I think the Starbringer, right, was 71, I think.
71 books.
Starbringer was 71.
When did you start, like, writing?
My first novel came out in 2008. It came out in December of 2008, and then I had another one come out in January of 2009. It was November 2008, January 2009, and I've been writing ever since. I mean, I've been writing my whole life, right?
Okay.
But those are my first two novels.
And what was your first book about?
My first book, okay, this is interesting. I actually wrote two books very close together. And my very first book was actually my second book published.
Okay.
They were both romances, but my first book that came out was, I had originally titled it The Turn for Home, and then I think it came out, the line, it was bought by Harlequin. For their line, they were doing multi-generational books and that kind of thing. It was kind of like Nicholas Sparks type.
Okay.
And then they ended up moving it into another line, and it published under the name A Christmas Wedding. Okay. And it was about a horse racing ranch here in Texas. We had been driving, my family and I had been driving to Fredericksburg, which is a town near Austin, for the weekend, and we passed this beautiful thoroughbred ranch. And I thought, and I just started thinking about like what multi-generational family dynamics would look like on that. Mm-hmm. And that was my first book. And then my second book was a super sexy book called Full Exposure, and that was published by Penguin. And it was about a very damaged woman whose sister had died.
Oh.
And she was really, really struggling with the death of her sister. And she was a photographer, Full Exposure, and she ends up meeting a sculptor, and it's a love story.
Okay, so you started writing romance.
I did. I started in romance.
You have always loved romance.
I have always loved romance. I always laugh. When I was young, I was in my mother used to take me to the bookstore every 2 weeks, and we would come home with a pile of books. And I remember it was the summer after 5th grade, and I was home, and I didn't have a lot to do. And we had gone to the bookstore that weekend, and the YA section then is not what it is now.
Okay, yeah.
And they just didn't have as many books. And I had read everything. I had read everything in the section. I'd read everything in the classic section. So when I got home, I was in a really grumpy mood, because when you can't find a book and you really want a book, and you've reread everything you have until they're falling apart, and my mom slipped me a romance novel. And she said, why don't you try this? And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, you might like it. And I still remember the name of it. It was Velvet Promise by Jude Devereaux. Okay. And it was a historical romance. And I fell in love with it. And I read, it was a series of 4, and I read them all in like a week, and then I read them again until they fell apart, and then I went into her room and I got like every romance novel I could find. And I'd wanted to write since I want to say about 2nd grade. I had like really decided like I love writing. I would tell stories, I would do all of these things, and I think that was when I first decided I wanted to write romance. And then young adult, it was not long after that. So in 2009 actually, which is when my 2nd book came out, that's when I sold my first young adult novel, and that was a mermaid series called Mist Rising.
Okay, so you start writing romance and then you switch to fantasy.
Young adult romantic fantasy.
Because I really consider as a reader, it's not the same to understand a romance novel that a fantasy series. You know, they're like the romance is not always like the main point in all of the fantasy books. You know, and so that's amazing that you start like right away. Because I don't know, I'm just thinking like me as a romance writer, I'm just like, I can't imagine like just to build a world just like the Crave series. Like they're so amazing. Like all the books that happen, what happened in those books is like so incredible.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
So when we were talking like the last time about how you created the world, I just been curious about something. The last time I asked you if you have been to Alaska, you say no.
I still haven't been to Alaska.
But you were having a trip in July last year, right?
We had hoped to be able to go, and then my mother got very sick, and she has since died, and we have not made it. It is still on my list. At some point, hopefully soon, right? My partner really wants to go to Alaska as well. So yeah, hopefully one of these days.
I'm so sorry about you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And how's been you feeling about being like the end in Cherish?
You're gonna make me cry. I think I was writing it because I'd been on tour and I'd gotten so sick and I came home and I had to write it. I was writing it. I'd been working on it while I was on tour, but we were moving a lot, going a new place, a new city every day, and so I didn't get as much done as I'd hoped. And I ended up writing it so quickly. I feel like I didn't get to. I got to enjoy writing it, but I didn't get to grieve the fact that the series is over. And I'm gonna miss them, except it's not. I say it's not really over because I have a lot of satellite series or stories that I want to tell. I really want to tell Macy's story. I really want to tell Jackson's story. There's a lot of people's stories that I really want to tell. So anyway, it's not over. It's just Grace. I guess Grace and Hudson have, and I guess there's something really really nice about the fact that they reached their happily ever after, right? And they're going to be good. And there's something really nice to know that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And there's other people I have to make sure they're okay too, right?
After reading Charm. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Charm, yeah.
I was like, how that book is that big? Like, I was just like, I didn't mention it in my head. I was like, Charm is a very necessary book to read after COVID because, you will
after court, right? You read it after court?
Yes, court, sorry.
Court.
Yeah, I was just like looking there, but because I was thinking that if you read that book because it's already published and I didn't have the option to read it
here,
you will get very stressed in crushing COVID. Yeah, because you're gonna be like, please remember,
I think
so. But I was like, how is that big? Like, I don't understand. And then you read it, and you're like, oh, I see.
A lot happens.
A lot of things happen. Because I was just like very curious. I always loved Grace and Hudson, like the chemistry that they both have. And I was like, I always liked Hudson. Since the first page that he shows in Crush, I was like, yeah, that's my kind of man. Yeah, that's the kind of man that I love to read in romance books, in fantasy books. So I was just like, because that, not like in love, at the beginning, but you just know that he cares about Grace. Mm-hmm. Since the very beginning, you're like, how that happened, and then you start like reading his their enemies to lovers story in Charm, and you're like, I love this so much.
I mean, Charm was a lot of fun to write, right? Because when we meet Hudson and Crush, we've never met the Hudson before Grace, right?
Yeah.
We've met the Hudson who was already in love with Grace.
Yeah.
And it's a very different person. No, I mean, not very different because Hudson is who he is, but but yeah, he cares about her. He doesn't want to hurt her, and he's a lot softer, I think, than he is when you first meet him in Charm. And he's like, everybody is not trustworthy. And
yeah, like, I'm sorry, Luis, but he's the love of my life. Thank you for writing him. Actually, a lot of
thank you for reading him. I appreciate it. I love him a lot too.
I mentioned some people that I was going to meet you, and they were like, please tell Tracy that I love Hudson. Like, I really love Hudson. And well, there are a lot of people in Mexico that love Hudson.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Thank you so much.
Yes. And I know that you're going to be writing some, as you were mentioning, stories that are not from Grace and Hudson, but they are in the Crave world. And the next one that we have is Remy's story, right?
Yeah, Sweet Vengeance will be coming out, and we're very excited about Remy and Izzy.
In which process of the book are you in right now? Are you finished it?
I'm not finished with it.
You're not?
I'm not finished with it.
You are?
My editor was like, are you writing today? And I was like, I am writing today, but I'm also taking a little time out to come talk to Mariana. And she's like, as long as you're writing later.
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember from the last time, she was mentioning that she writes 24 hours. She can be like straight 22 hours.
22.
But I just imagine like the whole day just like typing.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, it was so funny. Yesterday, my partner was working, like super, super busy, and I was like, why won't you come play with me? This is so boring when you work. And stuff. Like, seriously, this is what you're telling me. I don't see you for whole like days on end. You barely make it. You stumble out of the office to take a shower or fall into bed. But okay, Tracy, I'm the boring one.
I like the idea of you writing. I really like it. Like all the ideas that you have, like just like, because whenever you write, it's gonna come somewhere sooner. So that's amazing.
Okay.
Oh my!
Hopefully soon. Yes.
And how many books are gonna be in the Remy's?
I think we don't know right now.
You don't know right now?
We're just gonna see. Yeah. And we've got Starbringer coming out, which is set to be, I think it's set to be 3 books. And then there's something else that I'm working on that nobody knows about yet. It's very quiet. And so that one we'll see. And then, Then also because I really want to do Macy's story. I really want to make sure Jackson, gets a story.
Yeah.
And so I think that we'll see how Remy and Izzy go.
And we're gonna see Hudson and Grace in Remy's story, or
I think we'll see Hudson and Grace again.
but not that much, right?
No, they're not essential.
They're just gonna be like
they're off in college, doing their thing, living their lives, being happy.
Yeah, of course. After all of that,
Vampire
please.
Court, Gargoyle Court, they got a lot to do.
Let them be happy.
Let them be happy. Yeah, that's what I'm like. I just don't have it in me to torture Grace and Hudson anymore after Cherish.
In what? In 20 days?
There's some torture in Cherish.
More?
Maybe.
You didn't like it in Great Russian COVID?
I know.
In Court as well?
In Court, yeah. In Charm, yeah.
Cherish.
Cherish. There's a lot that happened to Cherish. We thought it was going to be like a book about the size of Crave, and it is larger, significantly.
Cherish?
Yeah, it's not as big as Court, but it's I think it's between Crush and Cuff It in size. It's a big book.
How many words have Cherish?
Cherish is. My editor cut a bunch because that's what she does. Because she's so mean to me. No, just kidding. Because she's like, you write too much, and she's right. I think it's about 180,000, 190.
That's a lot of words.
I think that's where it came. I think it came out about 180 to 190, somewhere in there. Crave is about 160. Court is like 200 and some thousand. So it's between that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a story. It's a full story.
Okay. And I've been curious about something. It's how do you feel as your writer career since you start writing to now? Like, how do you feel like different? Do you find some habits that help you to build your
some habits that help me? Yeah, absolutely. I think in some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder, right? Mm-hmm. I think at the beginning of my career, I had young children, and I was teaching, and I was trying to fit my writing schedule in around teaching college and being, a mom of toddlers. I always laugh because my computer at that time, I think I had a God, my mind just went like not a laptop, a desktop, and I had 2 in the office, and it kind of depended whether my children were awake or whether they were asleep, which one I used, right? Because my office is like right off the game room where they played. And so if they were asleep, I'd be over in the corner in mine. And if they weren't, I'd be on my ex-husband's computer, just like watching and writing, something, watching. You know, so there's a lot of that. And so now it's nice that, you know, I have an office and I, you know, in my house, and I just go to my office, and 60 to 70% of the time people leave me alone, which is nice unless they need something, because my kids are a little older and all of that. But I think it's easier a little bit in the idea of, I feel like I found my audience at a time when I feel like I found an audience. Sorry, we had books coming over here.
Yeah. The production is on fire. Yes, thank you so much.
I saw that and I'm like,
Do you want to give it to me?
Okay, we just add them in.
Yeah. I just saw the production coming in. Oh, there's a dog. So I'm just gonna be extra careful. I don't care if it's a person. No, just
We're very afraid. There's
I'm
a
just
pile
kidding.
of stuffed animals down below that we're like, okay, if we hit the stuffed animals, we're okay. We just want to make sure we don't hit any people. If they
The
fall
dog's
off.
important. It's a golden retriever. Oh my gosh.
So it feels nice, I think, to have found my audience. To know that this, you know, I think sometimes you write in the void, right? And sometimes that's good because you're just writing for yourself. You're writing. And I think you always have to write for yourself, whether it's your first book or your 70th book, because if you don't like it, then I don't think anybody else will ever like it. But it feels good, I think, the Crave series. I mean, I have the most amazing fans in the world. And I will, you know, I have to tell you, I was on book tour, and I would tell everyone, starting in my very first spot in Europe all the way to my very last spot in America, I was like, I have the best fans. It's just a fact. It is what it is. And they're like, yeah. But every time I left a bookstore, they said, you know what, you really do have the best fans. They're amazing. And I'm like, they are. I know. I'm incredibly blessed. And so being able to write for such an amazing, wonderful audience is it's overwhelming. It's a really incredible feeling, and I'm so grateful to have that opportunity. And so I feel so incredibly lucky to have people who are so kind to me and so receptive to my worlds and my characters and the stories that I want to tell. I feel very blessed.
Yeah, just to write a book about that you really love to write about the Crave series, for example, and then just publish it and then just hope for the best, you know? And there were people who are like me, who loves the Crave series, the Crave world, and there's so many more people in Mexico, I'm sure of that. And I think that's amazing, the job that you do, because I think it's not just a story. I think it's more than that. For me, it's more than that. It's more than a series, you know.
That means a lot to me.
Grace means a lot to me.
Thank you.
She's a really good character. Like, not as perfect as they want to seem sometimes. Some authors, like, she's the perfect. No, Grace is not perfect, but that's what makes her perfect, you know. So thank you for giving us all.
I really appreciate that. I usually hear everybody loves headset. It's really nice to hear about Grace.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really like Grace, and in this book, I love her more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if I know what she's going to be through, and just to see what is going on before all of that, and I'm like, you can do it, girl. I know you can do it.
That was actually really my struggle writing Charm, right? Because I wrote it after I wrote Court.
Yeah.
And I had to go back in time to hear, right? And I had to be like, who was Grace before she had lost everything that she's lost? And before she's suffered, like, and done all of the things that she's done, you know, and learned all of the things and made all the mistakes. God knows she makes a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
But I think we all do, right? I think that's part of the process of living, right?
Yeah, that's right.
As long as I think it's better to make mistakes, because then at least you're trying something, even if it goes wrong, at least you're not just sitting there not doing something, right? And so trying to go back to that mindset, be like, okay, this is Grace before these books. Where is she? And I think I had a soft spot for her too, for the same reason. Like, oh babe, you don't even know what's coming. You just don't even know what's coming.
Yeah, and she mentions sometimes like, it's gonna be okay, and I'm like, no,
it's really not.
You have 3 more books to go. That's not good.
Gonna be okay.
That's not. Yeah,
and then Cherish.
But
so 4 more books.
4.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that, but you are right, because you cannot be the same Grace
That
in
you see at
Charming
the end of
Court.
Coven.
No, yeah, it's not the same, because she has like she's still struggling to find who she is, and in court, of course, she already knows.
Yeah.
She knows who she is, but in Charm, she's like, what?
And she still hasn't learned.
I just lost my parents.
Right?
You
And
know?
you take her back to she's just lost her parents.
Yeah.
Because she's only, I mean, if you think about Crave only being like a little over a week long, right? We're like, she's barely introduced into the world. She barely knows anything. You know, and suddenly now there are time dragons and there are time wizards and there are all these other shadow queens and all this other stuff. It's just like, I barely figured out that there were vampires. How am I dealing with like shadow dragons?
Yeah.
Like I read the scene where she's flying and she turns to stone and she like stabs the shadow dragon. Yeah. I had so much fun writing that scene because like I was just like, you know, think about like you don't know the world, you don't know your powers, and like you're just like trying not to die and not to get anybody else killed, you know. And
now that I think of in Charm, I think I really like Hudson in that book, but I think Grace was something in that book. Like I really got the feeling that I knew her, even though that I already read Crush, Covet, and Court. I don't know if because of that, but when I was reading her mind and her thoughts, I was like I really understand you, you know? And
thank you.
Yeah, I really like Hudson. Like, he's the love of my life. Sorry, Luis. But yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. And I think in Crush, in Covet, and Court, as we are reading Grace's mind all the time, we are just like, yes, Grace, but what else? And in this time, because we have 2 points of view, we are reading Grace through Hudson eyes. So, you know, that was a really nice thing to do.
Thank you.
So at the beginning, you knew that it's going to be 2 points of view?
I always wanted it to be. I love writing actually from Hudson's point of view. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so that's kind of why, you know, I love always doing the ones at the end of the book. Yeah. And my editor and I think I went around a little bit. I think she wasn't sure, and I was just like, let me try. Let me just see. And I think that I think it really made Charm special. You know. In
Cherish is gonna be 2 points of view. No, just Grace. Just Grace. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. And just to finish here, how can you say or how can you describe in 3 words that are expecting? That we that we can expect from Cherish. I hope that is not one of them, but okay. I'll leave it to you.
I'm trying to think of the destabilizing. I think Cherish. There's a lot of things that break in Cherish. Okay. And there's a lot of things that change in Cherish. So change, and then I think strength. I think it's about strength in a lot of characters.
Okay.
So destabilizing, change, and strength. And love. Can I do 4?
Yeah, love.
I think love and friendship play a really, really important part in Cherish, and I think that And can I tell you my favorite thing? Well, not my favorite thing, but one of my favorite things is there's a new god. There's a new god in town. God? Mm-hmm. And it's a female god. And
is the one that we meet in this book? It's another one.
It's a brand new one. And I'm super excited about her. I had a ridiculous amount of fun making her up. So I hope you guys like her.
Oh, I'm so excited. 20 more days. Yes, from today. I don't know what you're going to see this, but from today.
From today, it's 20 more days.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming. It's so good to see you, and congratulations on your book again. I'm
thank you so
happy
much.
for you.
No, and congratulations you for finishing this. It was not easy. I can guarantee that it was not easy, but thank you for making us happy with what you
love it.
Yeah?
I love this series.
I love it too. We can stare
we'll just stare at it a little bit.
Yeah, with love eyes.
We'll just be like, they want to watch the back of our heads as we stare at our
something like that. Okay, well, anyway, thank you so much, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Love you.